Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to assume people can hear me. So good evening or good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Tara Van Dyke, and this is the Morbid Symptoms podcast. I've decided to reboot. Anyway, it looks like I might be solo tonight. So if I start seeming like I'm talking in a hostage video, I do apologize, but it's a bit, interesting doing it solo. Anyway, for those of you who are watching, thank you. And those of you who watch later, thank you very much. Again, this is the Morbid Symptoms podcast, and I would like to ask, before I forget, that you like and subscribe, because I'm trying to build this up. Still very much a novice podcaster, learning as we go. But anyway, enough of that. So today's focus, or today's show, is going to be on what I've coined PERFs, which is Palestinian Exclusionary Radical Feminists. And for those of you may be familiar with the term TERF, which stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. And the reason why I'm calling it PERF is a bit of if you're within the TERF community, so to speak, or tangentially, there's a big rift, because a lot of us who were critical of, whether you want to call it gender critical or critical of gender ideology or ultras, or whatever it is. Basically, I'll just talk for myself, that my point of view is I'm critical of gender ideology for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to get into totally, because just enough to give you an idea what PERF is a play on, how PERF is a play on TERF, because it's a dig at quite a few TERFs, actually, and that's quite explicit. And I don't make any apologies for that, because I'm really disheartened, sickened, angry, pissed off about the total lack of concern for Palestinians, especially Palestinian women and children, but all Palestinians. It's like they don't exist, or they're not human, or they deserve everything that they get, etc., etc. Anyway, bit of a tangent. So anyway, my point of view is basically, if you're somebody who doesn't believe in magic prefixes, so we know that if you add trans to if someone says they're trans, it doesn't magically change them from one sex to the other. I have no idea what's in people's heads. It's basically that sex is determined at conception. It doesn't change no matter, how much you want it to, or what surgeries you have, or how long you grow your hair, or what pronouns people call you, etc. That, that's just what it is. What people think or want or whatever is a different issue. So basically that's it. So that's the thing. And so it was like idea that trans women, which are men, aren't women. So why would feminism need to include them, or women's rights and children's rights campaigns include men who pretend they're women for whatever reason that may be? Anyway, there was a bit of more than a divide. October 7th happened, and almost immediately, or maybe immediately, a lot of people who followed in that circle, the gender critical, or the critical of gender ideology, or whatever you want to call them, TERFs, whatever it is, whatever the word, ultras, who aren't going to negotiate to be nice anyway on pronouns or anything like that, just started talking immediately like, they'd all gotten back from taking the IDF guided tour in Palestine or Israel, whatever you want to, if that's what you prefer, and swallowed it whole, and just started to really, from my point of view, just say the most bizarre, racist, it was just really shocking. And a lot of people met, and so I'll focus on the women, on the TERFs, is that all of a sudden it seemed like Palestinian women and children didn't matter, that they got what they deserved, that whatever happened on October 7th, it just seemed like you're not going to get a peep. It was all totally focused. The only people who were victims were Israelis. The only people who mattered were Israelis, and also Jewish people abroad, because of course Israeli and Jewish people are two different things. It just was really just, anyway, shocking. So that's why I called it PERFs, is because they're not trans exclusionary, they're Palestinian exclusionary radical feminists. So you would think that if women and children are being slaughtered in mass, treated very poorly, starved, sexually assaulted, detained for no reason, just, I don't have to tell those of you who are probably watching this, you probably have caught enough to know what's going on in Gaza. Not just after October 7th, which of course has just been off the charts extreme, but before then, because of course it's been going on for many, many generations. It just was really baffling. It's like, where are the feminists? Where are the women's rights people? Where are the children's rights people? Or just anybody? Obviously it's not just women, children, of course, are male or female, but, men also human, important. It just was really baffling. And so I came up with the thing PERFs. And today we're going to talk about some of them, or I have a few things that I want to talk about. Let's see. So there's going to be 4 sections, I think. One is about a PERF posted. So when I say PERF, I mean Palestinian exclusionary radical feminists. Also, I'll throw in the general criticals in there, women's rights and children's rights campaigners who, whether or not they identify or not, the main thing that ties all these people together is they could give a shit about Palestinians and apparently are fine just to watch as Israel just slaughters them en masse, which is hard to wrap your head around. Especially if you call yourself a feminist or a human, really, or a women's rights campaigner, children's rights campaigner, etc. Liberal, anyone who's not fascist and genocidal, really. But I digress. You can tell it's been a stressful day. Had some Twitter attacks. Didn't get any of my chores done, but here we go, people. Okay, so let's see. I digress. This is what happens when I'm on my own. No one to pull me in. Anyway. So we're going to talk about a person was very upset about a drawing for a Palestinian rights rally in England, was very threatened by this. We're going to look at that, and you can make up your own mind how threatening you think this was. I'm also going to, the next section is basically what I'm calling the whiny little Mitch cry bully, Andy Doyle. And for those of you who are outside the UK, you may or may not know him. He's a playwright. I think he also is on GB News. He's also, quote unquote, gender critical, very much about liberal values, free speech and dialogue and evidence and debate, all that great stuff, which of course goes out the window as soon as it has anything to do with Israel, Palestine, Palestinians in particular. So I had a bit of a run-in with him, which was, it was worse than or like dealing with what we call TRAs, which are trans rights activists, which is basically, for those of you who know, it's just really difficult conversing with them because either it's no debate or they immediately say, you're wrong, you show them the evidence, they don't care about that, they change the subject, they call you names, racist, transphobe, etc., try to, Google you and see if they can threaten you with, your job or who knows what. It's just like basically, so there's this thing that we've been talking about within the turfy, those of us who know that men aren't women and women aren't men, even if you add a magic prefix, and also are opposed to genocide and consider Palestinians to be human beings and to be need to be protected and stood up for, regardless of what the smears and the metonymic, whatever it is you want to, whatever it is that encourages us, that asks us every day, it seems, to not care about them, to look away, to demonize them, to blame them, to whatever. I'm sure you can all fill in the blank. Anyone who's watching who has picked up on how biased and really just sinister Orwellian. We don't have the words anymore. We're gonna have to come up with new words to make sense out of what we're living through. And again, I want to preface that, which I feel I need to, that, my stress or anybody's stress about dealing with this outside of Gaza and the West Bank is obviously trivial, and our hearts and our, I don't want to cry, connect with the Palestinians there. And, oh, sorry. Why am I so emotional? It's crazy. But really being an American, living in the where I do, and I don't know, because I have some German ancestry and that I've lived in Gaza for a couple of years, I just feel like, I don't know, like if I could, I'd go there and fight with them. It's just so appalling to me that so few people are standing up for them. Anyway, enough of that. Then we'll also talk about, so after Andy Doyle going totally TRA on Twitter, let's see, then what's next? Also, there was Joe Scarborough and some other big large accounts on Twitter started passing around this article saying that the UN has halved the casualties in Gaza, and of course, then again adding that the Hamas figures aren't trustworthy. So the 36,000 or whatever the specific number is from the UN, they were trying to say that it was halved. We're going to look at that, and I'm sure you'll be shocked to know that it's a bunch of shit. But they're ghouls, and why would you expect somebody who poses as a news station or a reporter to actually check any facts or figures? Of course, why would you when it suits the narrative? And it seems that it exacts no cost just to propagandize and pull stuff out of their butts. There's something else, but I forgot. Well, we'll get to it. So let's get to our first perf. Palestinian exclusionary radical feminist or gender critical or libertarian, whatever. Pretty much one thing that a lot of people have in common, at least where I'm at, and from what I see on Twitter, is they exclude Palestinians from the category of anybody who's worthy of sympathy or rights or protection. But we'll get to that. So here is the first thing. I'm going to change my background. Sorry about that, because this is tripping me out a bit. Let's see if I can change the background. There we go. I think that's better. Okay. Anyway, so this person, I don't know, I'll read it out, but it says Free Palestine. And she tweeted, what is it, X? That sounds weird. I'm just going to say tweet. She tweeted, "The Brighton Pro Pals are putting these up near my house. Note the gun held by the Palestinian man on this poster. This is deeply threatening. Sussex Police and Brighton Hove," I guess that's probably City Council. I mean, my God, how threatening is this? This is really I can't believe that we're allowed to have these, to post these things. But if you notice a bit, what she's circled here is so we have so it's obvious that this is not a Palestinian family that's in Brighton. This is a picture that somebody drew, and these are people. This is a Palestinian family in Palestine, Gaza. And so you have this guy, he's trying to, arms around his family, and you see this little gun here, and she finds this very threatening. Now, what's totally on point with the thesis that Zionist rights activists, or Zs or ZRAs, have nothing on trans rights activists is that notice that she focuses on the gun. She doesn't notice in the background there's the bombs dropping on them. Of course, some of them may be, made in the UK. Lots of them are made in the USA. But no, it's this little gun, and she's very threatened about this. So threatened about that she wants to notify the police. And again, those of you who are watching or paying attention to the sex/gender wars, this is a bit of irony, because oftentimes when Let Women Speak or any kind of event is happening that's for women and by women, people, sorry, I thought one of my kids was coming in. People, of course, there's the reports that they find it threatening that, the LGBTQI, et cetera, are threatened by the fact that women want to come and just hang out with women and talk about whatever it is they want to talk about. That just the fact that they're saying that women only, or of course, you probably know from if you're in the UK, that when Posey Parker started with her very effective women, adult human female, people would complain that that was offensive or hate speech, because of course we have to pretend that men can be women too if they say so. So it's just the irony that you find a lot of things that it seems that people either they don't care or they can't pick up on the fact that they are acting the way that they used to severely criticize and joke about when it was in terms of when they were dealing with people, with the TRAs, the trans rights activists, who want you pretend, either they actually believe or they want you to believe that when they say trans women are women, they mean that literally, like they're literally women. There's two groups of women. There's us, quote unquote cis women, which is ridiculous, and then men who are women. And anybody who doesn't agree with that is a terrible beast. Round and round. But anyway, they're acting quite similarly when they say that just like TRAs would be threatened or pretend to be threatened or upset by a woman as an adult human female poster or sticker, Heidi and others are threatened by this drawing that has this little gun in the background. I'm not sure why, but apparently I'll let our listeners decide if they think that is particularly alarming or if Heidi needs to cope. Okay, so let's see the next thing. So here, let's move. Now we're going to move on to. Oh, you can't see it here, but this is Andy Doyle's Substack from today, and he's very upset about EuroVision and the rise of the non-binaries. And the tagline to this is authoritarianism now comes with catchy tunes and trashy outfits. Okay. So fine. So some of you, anybody who's been paying attention to EuroVision knows that, what was it? There was what's her name? Bambi Thug, who was the quote unquote queer non-binary witch from Ireland. And there was the guy from Switzerland, Nemo, I don't know. Anyway, who was also who also claims to be non-binary guy. And anyway, so he's making the argument that that authoritarianism now comes with catchy tunes and trashy outfits. And of course, this is I don't know what old, but this is a well-known argument. The idea that fascism doesn't always come how we think it's going to come, with, like the Nazis in the streets and what do they call them, the brown shirts and kill squads and all this stuff, that it can come, with trashy outfits and catchy tunes and all this stuff. And of course, yes, anyone who's been following the sex gender wars and is anyway critical of gender ideology or etc. knows the arguments is that it's authoritarian. It's like, who are you to tell me that I have to call a man a she or a woman a she, or pretend there's any such thing as actually trans kids? That any of this is at all objective or material based, anything other than subjective, whether it be, an illness or a phase or a cry for attention or a paraphilia or, defense mechanism for sexual trauma, whatever it is, it's in the mind. There's nothing objective and material about it. So making people pretend that this is not the case, of course, is authoritarian. That adjective fits. But of course, what makes this so laughable to me is that while he's writing this and preening and freaking out about the rise of the non-binary authoritarians, there's an actual ongoing genocide in Gaza. That how anybody can think it's anything else than just an out-and-out massacre, that they're just trying to kill to reduce the population as much as possible until the United States makes them stop, or until there's or the neighboring populations become so unrestive that their governments can't keep them in line. That this is going to keep on going. So while people are being slaughtered in Rafah and in Gaza, and there's also a lot of settler thugs terrorizing the West Bank, he's complaining or really up in arms about the non-binary authoritarians. So anyway, I was a bit having some fun. So okay, other people. So you'll notice some names here. So a lot of people, a lot of PERFs, a lot of TERFs, but I'm calling PERFs. So again, Palestinian exclusionary radical feminists or gender criticals, etc. So Rosie K, who was, I think she was pushed out of her, I want to say, dance company for not being sufficiently compliant to the demands of what I'll just call the pronoun mafia for short. Sorry. She says, excellent article from Andrew Doyle on why the cry of non-binary is more chilling than saying you're goth or an emo. So again, this histrionics, this really just, it's almost like they have to be really concerned about this so they don't have to be concerned about the death and destruction that's going on that they haven't said a word about, or have actually engaged in what could be called, denial or defense of Israel's actions and the support that they're getting from most Western governments, not just Western governments, but mostly Western governments. And I just find this so, I mean, again, I think non-binaries, I don't, obviously no one's really non-binary. It's a term, it's a concept, it's a phase, whatever you want to call it. But that it's more chilling. Was saying you're goth or emo ever chilling? Did I ever I'm trying to think of when I come across someone who said they're goth or emo, that was really a frightening experience for me. I don't think so. But anyway, fair enough, because I think this is kind of funny, because when I think about non-binary and all this stuff and all this gender stuff, except for when people actually start, getting body modifications and experimental hormone treatments, then it's no longer a game, then it's very serious. But when people are, saying this or that, to me, if someone says they're non-binary, it would be like someone telling me they're goth. It's like, well, okay, or they're, a Seventh-day Adventist, or, they worship Zeus or something. It's just like, or they believe they were, they've had, this is their seventh past, this is a seventh life, or whatever. But anyway, Rosie's very concerned about this. It's chilling. The cry of non-binary is very frightening. And again, I'm not saying this isn't an issue, but just in the context of what's going on in Gaza, that they know, I'm assuming they must know about, this just seems just really just kind of, I don't know, just leaves at the very least, leaves a bad taste in the mouth of us who are crying and screaming, saying, or, doing a bit dramatic, wanting people to pay attention and to say something, at the very least, about what's going on in Gaza and the region more broadly. So I tweeted to this group saying, and genocide dares can look sweet and innocent. Her peers were massacring children in Rafah at this very moment. So again, just to go through this again, first I see this. I don't know, this might have been last night. I don't know when I tweeted this. So the EuroVision and the rise of the non-binaries, unlike the rise of of the Zionist final solution, either that's going on in Gaza, and the kind of the spreading fascism that is beyond wanting people to pretend that you can be something that's called non-binary. I saw this and I thought, all right. And then I saw Rosie saying how chilling it is. It's more chilling than saying you're goth or emo, this cry of non-binary. And so I thought, well, genociders can also look sweet and innocent. So her peers are massacring children in Rafah at this very moment. Now, I didn't make this meme. Somebody else did. There's also one that's like this with the swastika flag. That to me, for, I get why people would want to do that, but that it was a step too far for me. And so to me, I'm like, it's true that just because somebody looks a certain way doesn't say anything about, what they're getting at. And that literally at this point, a terror campaign from IDF, from the Israeli occupation force, fully supported by the United States and the UK, and I think almost every country in the EU except for, I think, Ireland and Spain, maybe Portugal, I'm not sure. This was going on. So I didn't think anything of it, because usually, if you tweet, if you comment on a large account, you don't really expect to be that they're going to give you any kind of comment. However, that was not the case today. So I got up, I was going to get a coffee, I looked at my phone, and I saw all these notifications, and I was like, well, this is weird, what's going on? And then I realized that the perf, the Andy Doyle perf swarm was on me. So Andrew wrote back, how many people has she killed? Can you provide names, please? Cheers. So first of all, this is kind of weird, because I guess he's trying to act like a lawyer. Maybe he is a lawyer. But I just said, and genocidaires can look sweet and innocent. Now her picture is there, but that's just like a general claim, like people who are complicit in the act of genocide or similar acts can look very sweet or innocent. This is true. And then I say her peers were massacring children in Rafah at this very moment. Now, there's mandatory conscription in Israel. So I'm pretty sure that, I think women have to do 2 years and men 3 from 18. They can, waive it and push it off a bit, but unless they really have a good reason, the state they have to serve in the military and the IDF at least for 2 years for females and 3 years for males. So, her peers are involved in that, and I think she plans to go. Either she's been in the IDF or she plans to do her tour of duty after, her Eurovision thing. So Andy's upset. So he wants to how many people she killed? Can you provide names, please? Cheers. As if it's some sort of it's unknown. It's like the science isn't in on climate change type of stuff or whatever it is. And of course, that if I can't provide this, that somehow but whatever. So I wrote back to him, I don't know, Andrew, but there is mandatory conscription in the organized crime timeshare protection rackets, organized crime timeshare protection rackets, Israel. It's hard. Never read your tweets out loud. So there's mandatory conscription in the Israel occupation force. So chances are she has participated in the killing fields. So I'm using provocative language, and participate can mean all kinds of things. So we know that it's not only the people who are pulling the trigger or flying the drone or dropping the bomb. A lot of other things go into actually doing what's going on in Gaza or, the killing fields, I think is a reference to Cambodia. Anyway, she's proudly representing a state that is undertaking an industrial scale annihilation of a particular ethnic group. So it's not like her citizenship is an irrelevant aside or out of bounds. So again, if this was something that had nothing to do with, it wasn't a country-based competition, and she wasn't waving around, and everyone wasn't waving around the Israeli flag, and if they hadn't, I think, kicked out Russia for much less, if you compare why they said they didn't allow Russia to compete versus why they it's like, why is Israel there? However, so my argument is it's like her nation, it's like she's not there on purpose representing her country, that at the very moment she's representing them is trying to annihilate a particular ethnic group. So and then I wrote, by the way, any chance you'll be reporting on how Hamas is a pretext for depopulation, the massacring of women and children is the aim. Cheers. So I thought maybe that would be it, but no. He writes back. He was unsatisfied with my response. He says, no, chances are isn't good enough. Please provide names, dates, and circumstances. You made the claim, now defend it. And I have to say to Andy is, whatever, Mitch. It's like he went into full cross-examination mode. It's like, seriously? Whatever. So I write back, she's a genocide defender, supporter, and likely participant. If you want to disprove any of these claims, go for it, or continue whinging. And so here's one of my, I don't know who made these. Someone online made a set of 25 of these common Zionist tactics, which of course, again, anybody who's had any run-ins with TRA's trans rights activists, you will see the similarities that all these Zionist tactics, we could also say, are TRA tactics. But this one set for whinge is to complain endlessly about unfair treatment and double standards that do not exist. So, but maybe that wasn't the best one, but I was a bit, not ready for the Twitter fight this morning. So then other people start to weigh in. And Ryan Southwell writes, we should have invited Palestinians to Eurovision for balance, although they tend not to behave at music festivals. Now, I'm going to give Ryan his due. Or no, maybe I can't, Ryan, no, I don't know. This isn't him. I don't know who wrote this tweet, but people liked it. And I have to say that it is, it is a clever tweet, nasty but clever. So for those of you who may not know, he's referring to, I think it was the Navarro or the there was the music festival or the raid that was going on the day that Hamas carried out their raid in southern Gaza. And this is what he's referring to, because of course the story is that they went there and they just were rampaging and killing everybody they could. Subsequently, it's come from what we don't know the whole story. We'll probably never know the whole story. But what's the current state of this music festival is that, yes, there was a music festival going on. Hamas didn't know about it. So when they were coming in with the gliders or through the holes in the security fence, some of them found themselves in this festival because the festival was close to where one of the places they wanted to go. That had, it was a military type. Anyway, they had various things they were trying to do. I'll put a link to an article by Scott Ritter that goes over the military strategic aims of Hamas's raid that day. But what's come out subsequently is there's this thing called the Hannibal Doctrine, which is basically that Israel doesn't want Hamas or anybody, Hezbollah, to take casualty or to take prisoners. So there's this rule that basically that if it's between someone being taken hostage, better to kill them than let them be taken hostage. Yes? So the Hannibal Doctrine. It's also another way of saying that, so for example, they thought there was Hamas people there and there was their own people and Israelis there, that the fact that there was Israelis also in the compound would not be a reason for the IDF not to shoot in, to go in with a tank or with a Hellfire missile in order to take out the militants and to prevent them from being able to take hostages. So basically, I responded back to this tweet about the music festival, and I said something like, I think you misspelled Israel, because again, hinting at the fact or intimating the fact that it seems that there's quite a bit of evidence that the majority of the people that died at that music festival died because of what the IDF did. Their response, this kind of scorched earth, kill everything to get Hamas, but also to prevent any hostages from being taken. But I also wanted to counter this idea that about anyway, I'm getting a bit up behind myself. Did I? Okay, sorry, yeah. So to this tweet that's we should have invited Palestinians to EuroVision for balance, although they tend not to behave well at music festivals. Okay, fine. At least this is a pretty snappy comeback, I have to say. So this is a bit more than your standard ZRA response. So I wrote something back to him like, you misspelled IDF. The ones who killed. I said, you misspelled IDF. The ones who killed most of the silly ravers that day. Google Hannibal Doctrine and music festival. So of course, Andrew picked up right on the fact that I use silly, and he writes to me or tweets to me, no, tell us more about those silly ravers. We're all fascinated by your complete lack of basic humanity. What happened to you to make you such a soulless human being? Serious question. So again, given their complete lack of humanity when it comes to Palestinians, or I think probably Arabs or Muslims in general, I find this very interesting. It's also, you get the same type of thing from dealing with TRAs. You would say something about, hormone therapy or, white affirmation approach is bad. You usually get this thing about, you're so mean, you're a hateful person, you have no soul, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, I probably shouldn't have used silly to open myself up to this, but let me tell you, dear viewer, why I use the word silly raver. And it's not because I'm glad that the people who died are dead. But the reason why is, if you would think, let's take it out of the Israeli context. So what if these same people had heard that 3,000 people decided, 3,000, Indians decided to have a party, a dance festival, at the line of contact in Kashmir, the same day that Pakistan went in to raid some Indian military outposts, and these people got caught in the middle. Would we say, what would we say, what would the chattering classes say about them? That it was a good idea to have a rave in in possibly the most militarized, tense areas of the world? That it was that it was a good idea to dance and carry on in that type of space. And so that's what I get about, there's two measures that when it comes to anything Israel, there seems to be a different standard. Now, am I glad those people were killed? No, I am not. But it's like, it's also the hubris that where should we have a rave? Oh, I know. Let's have it close to the Gaza, basically concentration camp, right around where a lot of militarized or highly armed illegal settlements, kibbutzes are. And let's party on within earshot of that encampment because we're so fantastic. And then when, the shit goes down, yeah, it's unfortunate, it's tragic, but I'm sorry, I maintain the fact that is a silly place, an unsafe, unsound place, unless you're trying to rub salt in the wound to have a rave. However, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that how many of them, they should look up this up, they probably wouldn't, how many of the people at the rave who were killed that day were likely killed by friendly fire, or it's hard to call it friendly when it's intentional. Again, with this Hannibal doctrine, this doctrine that they don't want their people to be taken hostage, better to kill them than allow them to be taken hostage. And if there's a chance again for them to, if they have a chance to take out a couple of Hamas or more, and there's some Israelis there, that's not a good enough reason for them to forego that opportunity to a certain extent. But from my understanding, again, I'm not an expert on this, but the main thing about the Hannibal doctrine is that they don't want to deal with hostages. They don't want to be put in the position, of course, because their people obviously will want the hostages back. They don't want to get involved in that. They learned their lesson, I think, in Lebanon. And so this is that's the history of the Hannibal doctrine as far as I'm aware. But you can look it up. And Max Blumenthal has written a lot on that. And let me see if I have a banner that I can play. I used to have a banner that has people who are good at this. Yeah, here we go. I'll show my banner. So these are, and it's not an updated list, but these are people who are really good, or I find really excellent sources of information on Israel-Palestine and the Middle East more broadly. I need to update that because there's some other people I would add. However, and also, okay, so there's the fact about, this is, having a rave here is similar to having a rave at the line of contact in Kashmir. And for those of you who don't know, there's a lot of tension. It might be the most militarized place in the world between Pakistan and India over Kashmir. So having a rave here, it would be like we're having a rave there. And getting caught off guard, or apparently off guard, when one side is executing a military operation or raid on the other. And the third thing that I put to these people was you should keep in mind that Hamas has light munitions. So they have, you've seen, like, they have the machine guns. I don't know how old they are, or I don't even know if they're machine guns. Anyway, rifles. They have they make their own kind of like makeshift, hand grenades or something. And so that's basically what they would have. Maybe, I don't know, Molotov cocktails. I'm not a improvised weapons expert, but light munitions. So if you look at a lot of the damage before Israel was able to kind of, bury it, so to speak, and you can see that you have cars that are basically melted. You look at the damage at the rave and other places and say, Hamas couldn't have done this. Even if they wanted to, they could not have done that damage. This damage was done by a force that has things like these certain tanks, and I can't remember the name of the tank, and the Hellfire missiles. That's what can do this damage. Guys with rifles and hand grenades, I'll just use that word. I think that's a close enough word. Can't do this. So again, just to kind of cut this back. But at this point, so Andrew asked me what happened to make me such a soulless human being, but he apparently didn't mean it or didn't want to answer, because after this he blocked me. So I was going to respond to him, but then I was blocked. So what are you going to do? But here's just some other, just a bit of a snippet. So, but some of he blocked me, but the people who were following him did not. And so I had a lot of Twitter notifications today. But I just want to I picked out this one exchange from Missin Frog, yeah. Because again, those of us TERFs or TERVy or whatever, gender critical, whatever you want to call yourself, who just try to have basic conversations, fact-based conversations or an exchange of information, even if it's tense, but try to have an actual back and forth. You'll see the oh, Laura's here. Laura, are you here?
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, good. I'm not alone anymore. Hi, everybody. Laura's here.
Thank you. I was just gonna pop on because I got my friend around. We had a thing planned.
Okay, cool. No, I'm just I'm in the middle. I'm just Andy Doyle tweeted at me today, and a lot of his, I don't know what you call him, I don't know, ZRA swarmed me with all kinds of, as you can imagine, lovely treatment. So I'm just going over one exchange I had that highlights how dealing with them is the same or worse as dealing with a TRA. So right off the bat, so this person says, "Dick indeed." Now my last name is Van Dyke, and one of the first things that any TRA will do when I say something they don't like is make fun of my last name and say, "Whatever, Van Dyke." Like, it's so funny. I'm like, okay. And again, you have to keep in mind that what are we talking about here? This is like a life and death for what, 2 million some people, and also the wider region. But let's make a joke. So fine, Dick. Okay. And so of course, then, once you're dealing with the TRA, just like, same thing. Once you're dealing with a ZRA, so a Zionist rights activist, then it's like, okay, I kind of decided I'm just going to play around with them a bit. I'm just going to, if they have any kind of following, if they're just two people, they just have 2 followers, I don't care. But I'll be like, look, who knows? Maybe somebody else will see this. We'll see, so you're kind of like modeling how to push back, how to handle this bullshit, and how to just I'll just paste other stuff, and maybe somebody sees it, whatever. So I said to her, look, a ZRA saw a fact. And she writes back with this: "The inside of your head as much as anything here." So she's basically saying that I'm stupid. Okay. So, which, that looks kind of peaceful to me. I wish that was the only thing that was going on in my head. As a tumbleweed.
Who's this person?
Missin Frog. I mean, she's I can't really, your volume is a bit muddled, Laura.
Oh, my is terrible. Sorry.
It's okay. No, I mean, it just sounds like we're talking on different ends of a cave.
Yeah. Put my thing in, then I'll sound better.
Sorry. If it was just us two, that's fine, but other people, because people are critics, so someone's gonna say, "Oh, the volume." I'm like, look, I'm a one woman show with the 10-year-old computer. Uh-oh. Okay, now I can hear myself. Okay.
Is that better? Am I sounding less muffly?
Yes, but yes. Okay.
Awesome.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
A little bit.
But now there's echo. Now I hear myself.
Oh, damn.
But you did sound better. Okay, so what we'll do is, this is good. So Laura, when you want to talk, I'll stop talking. Yeah, and then it should be okay. So I'm going to stop talking now in case you want to say something.
Well, I feel bad because I was just going to jump on. I've actually got my friend over and we were going to watch Fiddler on the Roof, like the massive anti-Semites that we are. But I'd be up for doing this another night if you're into it. We could maybe put a bit of a shout out.
No, for sure, yeah. And thank you for popping on. I just told myself that I'm gonna have to get used to going solo from time to time. So, learn as you go. But yeah, for sure. I'm trying.
But yeah, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, pretty much. I can do another day.
Okay, cool. So I'll touch base with you sometime tonight or tomorrow, and we'll see what works for us.
Awesome, and I'll try to get some folk along as well.
Cool.
Amazing. Thanks for doing this, Tara. Really, thank you so much.
Well, really? Okay, good. Thank you, Laura. Like I told Laura before, I never watch myself. I never watch myself because I know if I look, I'm going to say something or I'm going to look a certain way, and I'll be tempted to take it down. So I just spot check.
No, you're good. You're a good talker. You're good at talking. You do good at the talking, so don't worry about that.
All right. Thank you,
awesome. Well, I'll see you soon. Yeah, well done, and keep up the good work. And yeah, send me a wee DM.
Mm-hmm. Will do.
Awesome.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye. So I can talk. I knew my talking would come in handy one day. Anyway, so again, sorry. So again, Missing Frog is an example of the kind of exchanges you have around this issue with PERFs. Again, PERFs being Palestinian exclusionary radical feminists or radical liberals or radical libertarians or radical, I don't know, women's rights people. So again, where am I off? Oh yeah, so apparently I just have a tumbleweed in my head. Fine. So then I say, a genocide denier saw another fact. Here's some more. And so I'm just using this opportunity just to put more information out there. And so this one is from Johnny Gaz, and it's basically he's going through his point. This is such an important point, even though this segment is, both serious and funny because of the way they, interact. I post the thing from Johnny Graz, who's at JVGRAZ, and he's fire on this. He pulls no punches. He's just like, he's done. And he has a very good tweet where he says, in case you're not clear on this yet, Palestinian children are the main target of this genocide. And he goes on in a very long tweet, to talk about how Israelis are obsessed with birth rates. You can hear him quoting about it all the time on Twitter. And he goes through, and this is true because Zionism, above whatever else it is a racial preservation project. So there's a lot of concern about how many Palestinians there are and what the birth rate is compared to Israelis, and like full Israeli, like, Jewish Israeli mother, Jewish Israeli father. And his point, and I don't know if you're just looking at it objectively, it's quite clear. It's like, it's not that they're so terrible that they cannot not kill all these people. That I think it's a very strong argument. I think I agree with this, that Hamas is a pretext, self-defense, the Hamas is a pretext to go in and not just mow the lawn, but like clear it out. The point, and if you want to depopulate a population, of course, you're going to target the kids and the women. The women have the babies and the kids grow up to have babies. So I think that he's spot on this. And so that was the tweet, and he goes through and he has, makes an argument and has various things in there. So I post that on there. And so Mr. Frog comes back and says, you're a whack job whose opinions on this or any matter I give not the remotest credence to. That's why she keeps on retweeting me. Go crawl back under your rock and others of your kind, that you and your others of your kind reside under. So again, this is what I love. And again, the thing with the TRA, because most people who are gender critical or TERFs or, whatever, we don't hate people who say they're trans or non-binary or all that as a group. I mean, there are individuals, there are people who say they're trans who I could give a shit about because they're nasty people, but that's about any group. Any group of people who you could divide it any way you want, there's going to be this range of people who are just, And so, yeah, guys who want to go into women's prisons, you know, AGPs, autogynephilias, you know, all this stuff is like, I'm sorry. The idea that every person that says they're trans or non-binary is some sort of magical, perfect, harmless person is bullshit, because no group is like that. However, my concern and others is about, of course, you know, that sex matters. So no men, no matter what you call yourself, in women's bathrooms, changing rooms, sports, prisons. And I'm also not going to call my vagina a birthing hole, or, you know, I'm not a chest feeder or breastfeeder. That women's specific language is not transphobic. Deal with it. And also, of course, caring about what kind of stuff is being presented as fact to kids. I have 3 kids. One's, two of them are young. Well, they're all young, but 2 of them are in the grade where they're constantly being confronted with this gender stuff in school, you know, about what your pronouns are and what your gender identity is, and, you know, talking about heterosexuality and bisexuality and homosexuality, like year 8. So my daughters come home and are like, I don't know, how would I know if I'm bisexual or not? And I'm just like, okay, why are they giving you these concepts? And I could see if somebody asked. So if a kid asks, yeah, then of course the teacher or whoever, the parent, what should be, you know, that's fine. Ask a question, tell them something. But anyway, so it's been about what's appropriate to tell kids at what age, what's appropriate to have in schools and what is not. And again, safeguarding and getting the whole trans medicine for kids, the gender stuff, the basically human vivisection and Dr. Gender Science stuff is just whatever. But not trying to kill anybody, not trying to genocide anybody, not trying to, you know, it's like what's in your mind and what you do that just affects you and those around you is fine. But when it becomes public, in a matter of policy and law and what my kids are being told and what I'm being asked to pretend, then it's something else. So you get the same kind of thing here. Where basically what our position is that a lot of people are being massacred, and that's bad. A lot of people don't seem to care. That's also very bad. The media is pretending like, you know, the worst thing that's happening are, you know, people being Jewish students or others around in the UK and the US and wherever who are upset when they hear a pro-Palestinian rally. You know, it's very much a focus on the feelings and perceptions of Zionists. And of course, you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist, etc. That are concerned about that, because those of us who are paying attention to online resources, alternative resources, are very aware of the I don't even have the word, the barbarity, just the genocide, massacre, annihilation, Amalek, biblical type of stuff that's being carried out in Gaza by Israel with the backing of, all of the full backing of Western Empire, if we'll use that word. But I'm a whack job and my opinions don't matter. And what I love about this is that you can't see it really here, but I'm not giving her my opinion, really. Basically, I'm just saying, this is here's the facts as they are, or things to consider, logical things to consider about the music festival. Here are things to consider about the child and women casualties, this type of stuff. And here, so I'm like, okay, fine. So I thought, well, she's still responding back to me. So I thought, okay, I'll put some other stuff up here. So then I just, say, oh, and a ZRA. So another fact, here are some more direct quotes from your favorite Zio-fascists. Sorry. And these are just direct quotes from people in Israel. These two of these guys are in the government, and this guy here is a retired veteran of the Israeli army. And he's saying and this is a quote from him, I think late October, when he's rallying the troops when they were going to go in to free the hostages in Gaza. He says, wipe out their families, their mothers, and their children. These animals must not be allowed to live any longer. And it gets worse from there. So again, it's not my opinion. This is what these people have said publicly. So, So she gets back to me. I can't remember. She said something else. Oh, just more of the same. Sorry. just more basically like you're an idiot, or I don't care about your opinions, or, you know, haha, or I can't remember. I cut off, sorry, but basically more the same. Um, um, and that's what she said. I don't know. Anyway, she said something to me, something called me some name. So I'm like, well, here's another one. Here's another one I think you're gonna love. And this is basically this. Well, this is the one from Yanis Varoufakis, and it's one that he's tweeting a video of a rabbi in Israel that says today he's talking about the kids in Gaza, or babies in Gaza, or the West Bank, saying today he's a baby, tomorrow he's a fighter, we will shoot them. And Giannis is saying, can there be a more straightforward declaration of intent to carry out genocide? So in response to this, our perf writes to me, have you considered getting a hobby, maybe one not revolving around Jew hatred? Okay, so me just basically just giving information about what Israelis have said, Israelis or Zionists have said or done. This is me being obsessed with Jew hatred, just like a TRA would accuse you of being obsessed with genitals, or obsessed with people's pronouns, or obsessed with people where people go to the bathroom. All these things we're obsessed about. And so I say to her, I'm assuming it's a her, Miss and Frog, don't want to misgender. So I respond back. So now you're implying that sharing the genocidal statements and actions of Israelis or other Zionists is anti-Jewish? Now that is what I call anti-Semitism. And I add a quote from Thaddeus Russell. He used to be a professor. I think he's still teaching, but on his own. I don't know, it's unregistered. So anyway, Professor Russell, but no longer affiliated with the university as far as I know. He's Jewish, part Jewish, which part I don't know, but he's part Jewish. And he writes, and he's also a libertarian, I think. So he's not on the left, really. I think he identifies as a libertarian. And he says, I just added this tweet. Imagine if a group of people who happen to share your official ethnicity were to invade, conquer, subjugate, and slaughter a foreign population and then announce to the world they did it all in your name. Talk about blood libel. And she's not impressed. She just basically goes back with more of the same, like, I hope you seek help for your your Holocaust denial, your anti-Semitism, or something like that. And I was like, okay. Then at that point, it's like, there's only so much self-inflicted, I don't know. At a certain point, you just got to be like, okay, done, mute, got other things to do, got to get off the Twitter. So I'm gonna take a drink of water before we move on to Joe Scarborough, another piece of shit. If any young kids are listening with your parents, I'm sorry. So Joe Scarborough, another fine bastion of integrity. And for those of you who don't know, he's on MSNBC in the States, and it's called Morning Joe. And I can't remember, maybe in the 90s, he was, I want to say, a senator, I think from Alabama. I'm not exactly sure. It might have been Mississippi. Anyway, somewhere in the South. And he's married to Maya Brzezinski, who was Zygmunt Brzezinski's daughter, who was the Secretary of State for Jimmy Carter. Oh my God. Anyway, and he's been on this program, MSNBC. He was like one of the token conservatives, because MSNBC in the States was supposed to be the alternative. So you have Fox News, which is supposed to be the right wing, kind of, aligned with the Republican Party. And then you had CNN, which is supposed to be in the middle. And then you have MSNBC, which is supposed to be to the left. And so Joe Scarborough was hired as like the token conservative guy on MSNBC. I don't know, maybe like 15 years ago. I don't even know. But anyway, I don't know what his official title is, if he's a pundit or he considers himself a journalist or a writer. I don't know. But he does work for MSNBC, Morning Joe, 5 days a week, I think, 5 to 9 in the morning. Anyway, so him and others, and if you were online today, you probably saw this. So he tweets, UN halves estimates of women and children killed in Gaza. Apparently the Hamas figures repeatedly cited are false. Ooh. Okay, so Now, I'm sure all of you would think, well, Joe Scarborough, he's an upstanding man. He's interested in the truth. And he would never, present something in a false light. Not Joe. Oh, no, not Joe. Well, yes. And other people, this really caught fire because of course, apparently 15,000 dead, murdered women and children is, I guess, I don't know, a good thing. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but I don't know if it was Joe Scarborough's because other big accounts were also putting this around. But big surprise, it's bullshit. And basically, what they were doing is that the UN has they have the number of dead, killed Palestinians, and they've separated out the number of people they've identified, which means they know who they are, from the bodies who they don't know who they are. So the number of dead hasn't changed. They still have it at 34. The UN official number is 34,844 dead, primarily women and children, largely non-combatants as far as we know. So, and this is just the bodies, of course. So there's the people who are still under the rubble, because if you've been looking at it, most of Gaza has been destroyed and they don't have the capacity to go search and rescue or search and recover bodies. So this is a low estimate, but even then they wanted to say, oh, they were just wanted to cherry pick and take the identified and say, oh, they were saying it was 34,844, but actually, you can't trust Hamas. It's actually 24. It's actually under 25,000. And this community notice saying, no, they are just separating out the identified bodies, the bodies who they know who they have been able to determine who they are, from the bodies that have not been ID'd. So slippery Joe, but it doesn't matter if it just has to fit the narrative. And again, by the time, there's a saying, I don't know if it was Mark Twain from the States a long time ago that said, a lie goes around the world like 3 times before the truth gets its pants on. So this is just, again, it's already out there, that anything that comes from a Hamas source or the administration there is immediately suspect. So they keep on wanting to drip that in, so it kind of like flashes on people's neurons. Oh, of course, yeah. Well, now look, the UN is saying that their numbers are overdone. No, they're not. They just have separated out identified bodies from unidentified bodies. So again, Joe Scarborough is a genocide denying POS. Not a perf though. He was. I mean, I don't think he's big on trans rights, but he's certainly he's as far as I know, not too concerned with women's rights and children's rights unless it serves military imperial purposes. Then then he is. So that, I think that is the last thing I wanted to share with you. So it was an hour and 6 minutes. So for those of you who've tuned in, thank you. Do like and subscribe if you're at Rumble or YouTube or X. Again, I'm just starting up the podcast again, learning as I go. If the sound or the video is off, I do apologize, because right now I'm just using what's built into my computer. If it goes well, I might be able to invest in a nicer microphone and I don't know, take an online podcasting class or something to learn the ins and outs. But please do like and subscribe. And again, I'm gonna be doing my morbid symptoms more regular podcasts more regularly. I'm sure that the PERFs, keeping track of our Palestinian exclusionary radical feminists or women's rights activists or libertarians or gender criticals, will be something that I will do at least once or twice a week, because it's just, something I need to do. Call out just this hypocrisy and this inhumanity and just this frustration that I know a lot of you share, and just to know that we're not crazy, that other people see it, other people experience it, and are still aware that 2 + 2 does not equal 5, and that carpet bombing and starving, collective punishing, a captive population that's been dealing with various phases of the occupation is not right. Regardless, and I would say this, that even if everything we've ever heard about Hamas is true, it still doesn't make what Israel's doing any less abhorrent, any less of a war crime, any less genocidal. And I think that also needs to be clear. So thank you. I hope to see you again. I hope you tune in again on the Morbid Symptoms podcast. Anybody out there who would like to, join a show, be a co-host, has some morbid symptom or something that's pissing them off that they want to get off their chest and have a sounding board, I'm more than happy to do that with most any topic, I think. But particularly around the PERFs, Israel, Palestine, of course, we can also get into the gender stuff, but it just seems that while this is going on, everything else just kind of pales in comparison on the political front and on the humanity front, at least in the general level. So, sisters, brothers, anybody who is aware that what's going on in Gaza is a crime and that the people aiding and abetting it are culpable, and that the mainstream media and the majority of the bulk of our politicians and news media and public intellectuals and Substack writers and whatever apparently are all lockstep and pretending like this is fine or necessary, just has to be done. And so I'm glad to be in solidarity with any of you who say, yeah, no, I'm not going to let you, bomb children and tell me it's self-defense or tell me that it's necessary or anything like that. So I'm rambling on. Thank you again for tuning in. Please do like and subscribe. Anybody who wants to come in on the show, please let me know. And yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.